And I guess one of my first questions for you is that in a double closing situation, let's say I want to start with deals that are 500,000 or a million or more, or whatever they are, maybe 250,000, whatever it is, bigger deals. How transparent do I have to be?
Zero.
This is a market where people know each other, and ultimately they'll know that I'm on the other side, right? They'll know that I'm on the other side. The buyer may know the property. If the buyer knows the property, the
Yeah,
deal's
but like
kind of
I mean,
done.
like I'll give you an example. I'm in contract right now with a partner. Okay, me and two guys we're in contract right now on a deal in San Antonio. We are in contract on the deal. Okay, for a little over $3 million. We're going to choose to flip this and wholesale it. Okay, do a double close for somewhere around 4.5 million. So
Mhm.
this will be $1 million spread deal, more than enough
Congratulations.
room. The deal pencils in every which way. We are we obviously, with me and the seller, there's no other parties involved. We are the buyer. Now, to the buyer of our deal, okay, to C, right, from the B to C, I'm telling people that I'm close friends with, hey, I'm in contract on this deal and I'm looking to sell it. If I know them, I'm being transparent. If I don't know you, I don't need to tell you I'm in contract on the deal because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't change anything. You know what I mean? There's no nuance that's different if I'm not in contract or in contract right now, right? Just does the deal pencil for you? Later down the road, I can tell you I'm in contract. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I don't need
Yeah.
to disclose that day one if it's somebody I don't know.
Okay. On the buy side, right? If it's
Yeah,
if
and
it's a
my
buyer.
seller also is going to never realize or never know until after closing. Maybe if he looks at at the tax records in a year, right, that they've been updated, that there's been two transactions, right? Like he's not going to know. He knows me as the buyer.
When that does happen, I mean, like,
I don't
is it
care.
nobody, but, and that's just it, right? Like we're facilitating a service at the end of the day, right? We're helping people do off
Dude,
market
what I'm saying, what
transactions.
does it matter to you if the seller says to you, I want $2 million and it's worth three?
Well, actually, it doesn't matter because you're not representing the seller, you're representing the deal,
I'm
right?
representing
So
myself. You're representing yourself. I'm not
yeah,
representing them,
yeah.
right?
And that's just really what it boils down to, right? Which is this idea that you're making an acquisition, so you're
I am
buying
a
for the best
buyer.
price.
I am
You are
trying to
buying.
buy a property, right? I am the principal. I'm
Yes,
signing on the dotted line. I'm giving you a deposit, right?
yes.
There is no documentation saying I'm a fiduciary. And if I was and I did, then of course I'd be the first one to tell. Dude, if you came to me and said, hey, buddy, I got this building, right? And I want to sell it, right? I just got a phone call from a friend of mine, same exact scenario. Hey, man, I own this building. I want to sell it. This guy even knows the buyer, but he's like, I just don't know what I'm doing. And I want to make sure I'm protected. And I don't, and I see like what I need to see, hear what I need to hear. To him, I'm going to try to make sure he gets the absolute top dollar he can possibly get with the best terms in his favor.
Mhm.
Same thing I would do with a buyer. If a buyer came to me and asked for me to be their fiduciary, right, I would do the same exact thing. We do this on a regular basis. But in these instances where we are wholesaling properties, I am not your fiduciary. I am a buyer and nothing more. That's the hat
Yes,
I have on right now, right? Where's my
yes.
hat go? Here you go. Ready? I got my not your fiduciary hat. Okay. NF, what is it? Not your NYF, not your fiduciary.
Not
Okay.
NYF. Do you use a specific entity type for double closings? I mean,
LLCs and
so
LLC is fine.
you will create a specific LLC for that, and like an SPE to do it.
You can use an LLC that just buys real estate. You could have one LLC and do it 100 times with it, right? Like you don't need a different LLC every time.
Okay, so because if you're buying and holding it, you do, right? And you want to probably do like a
Well,
serial.
what we do is we draft LOIs in one LLC, in the same LLC every time. And then once we are getting closer to closing, we'll create and have the attorneys or a title company create an LLC, right, specific for that property. And then that will be held by the holding company.
Got it. Okay, but for what we're doing, you use the
Same
for double
LLC.
closings, for assignments if you do them, for anything that's and so is your brokerage company the same entity with a different DBA? It's a completely separate entity altogether.
Correct. Correct. Has
Okay, so you
nothing
keep
to
that.
do with the brokerage business.
Got it. Okay. So what, I guess, the entity type that you use, right, in terms of, because we are in the process, I had to get the EIN. I had to I got the 101 error for some reason. So I have to like do the SS4. I got to like send it in and fax it.
Fun.
So it's going to take like 3 days or whatever. It kind of sucks. But when you're going through and you're doing that, what entity type do you do? Because typically what I'll just do is say it's consulting or like a business consulting management, right? But because I don't want to get
Buying and selling
flagged.
real estate. That's what it is.
So the Okay, so
I don't know
it's
the code. I couldn't tell you the code. I don't even
yeah,
know.
the
I
code
go
doesn't
on
matter.
literally, dude. Nowadays, you go on ChatGPT. This is what my LLC does. Tell me what NASIC's code I should use.
I tried that. I use ChatGPT on a regular basis, but like basically like the box, if I'm doing this, it's real estate. The thing is that I may want to use this entity for other things, and this entity will never hold any physical assets. It's always just going to hold cash. So my thing is that
Okay.
I don't know if it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, it's a disregarded entity because it's a single member LLC anyway, right? Do you set yours up the same way? Is it like a
Single member
single
LLC.
member LLC? So it's a disregarded entity. So it's just a pure pass through Schedule K on your taxes then. All right.
Talk to your
There's
accountant about that. I'm not trying to.
yeah, I know. Really, you only care about projections. Accountants care about historical, right? Like
Exactly.
the other question I had for you was proof of funds and liquidity. Like, will sellers? And these aren't sophisticated people, but if you're coming to somebody, you're taking
Sometimes they
over,
will ask for proof of funds.
and what do you do in that situation when it's just a proof of funds for a down payment or proof of funds for the whole shebang?
No,
What
just
do
for
they
the
need?
down payment. That's all it is. They
Okay.
might ask you for a like, listen, most sellers are not going to ask, but some of the more sophisticated ones will at least want to make sure that you have enough money for the down payment. That's all you need to show. It's like you have enough money for the down payment, and they're going to ask for an approval letter from a bank or a term sheet, which you can't even get unless you go through the due diligence, basically. But you could either just show them a screenshot of your checking account, which I've done on many occasions, or you can use things like
Oh, it's like a third party verification service.
not even a verification service. You literally can type a number and you could have $1 billion checking account.
Okay, very good. So basically, this is just giving you a document that
This is
you
just a
can.
PDF that looks as professional as you need it to be. And by the
All
way,
right.
same company does transactional funding, by the way.
This is the best transaction funding. Okay,
Yeah.
so proof of funds, and you just basically put in. So it doesn't tie to your actual bank account or anything like that.
Not
Okay.
at all. This
Okay.
is just you put an address, make it look legit, call it a day.
With the transaction funding, guys, do they need to be state specific? I mean, should I use somebody local, or is that
No, they don't have to
Um,
be local at all.
okay. And what
I would
kind
make
of
sure they're legitimate.
yeah, what kind of underwriting do they? I mean, it's not really underwriting, right? They're doing it
No, they
based on
just
the
need to see
deals.
both contracts. That's it. That's all I need to
That's
see.
it, right? There's no like deep dive on the individual, myself, or anything like that. It's just like, hey, I got this guy, I got this guy. They're not going to try to do a credit
But again, you
check.
got to pay attention. Like it costs money to do these things, right? So like even best transaction funding, which I'm not vouching for them. Okay, I want to be honest. I've never used this company, so I'm not trying to tell you to use these people. I've never used them. Okay, I've never needed to use transactional funding. Okay, personally, I just use my own money, right? So it's like it
Uh,
doesn't matter, right? So I'm saying I have my own funding personally, where like I don't need to use these companies. However, lots of wholesalers, many wholesalers will use transactional funding all the time. And there's very good ones. And I would tell you to do your due diligence on who to use, but they charge you between 1% and 2% all the time.
of for in a day or whatever. I mean, you're literally paying
No,
for that to be like
it's not
in one.
annualized. I'm saying no. You're charged 2% total of the amount of money you need. So if you need $2 million, you're charged
40
$40,000.
grand, 40 grand. That's aggressive. That's an aggressive. That's
Yeah.
that's really aggressive. Okay, and that's
So that's why I'm saying you
wow.
need to have a decent spread.
That would be. I mean, that would be something, right?
But
Okay.
this is also as what happens here. This is what happens down the road. Okay, buddy. So what happens down the road is eventually you have a network of buyers, people that you trust, right? Where you can be very transparent and say, listen, man, I got this deal under contract. I'm going to sell it to you. I'm going to make 100 grand. It makes a lot of money. You're going to make 1 million. I'm going to make 100. Call it a day. And what you're going to do is that, and I've done this now dozens and dozens and dozens of times, is that
Mhm.
my title company knows, and my buyers approve this, I just use my buyer's funds to close the whole deal. So my buyer closes, and then we use their money to use for my closing.
When you say you're going to make 1 million and then the buyer's going to make your buyer's going to make 1 million, you're going to make 100K. Well, are you factoring in them stabilizing the NOI and obviously
No, I'm saying
doing
like,
the
this is a good
refi
deal. You're
18,
buying it for
24
3.
months?
I
Yeah.
got him locked up for 2.9, right? Like you don't need to pick my pocket. The building's easily worth 4 million, 3.5 million the day you close, and it'll be worth 4.5 million after you put a couple hundred grand into it. You're gonna make 1 million. I make 100. Buy the fucking deal.
Yeah. Okay. This all makes a ton of sense to me. The partnership with maybe getting some buyers up and running. I had a question about that, but I talked to Brandon about it yesterday. Let's say I have a deal. I got my what is it? My 2 a day, right? My 2 offers a day, my 2 LOIs a day, and my 2 contracts a day. Let's say I got something under contract and I come to you and I say, hey, it's day 1. I'm 4 weeks in. I'm gonna make 250. Hey, I just need you to introduce me to a buyer, just get my first deal done, get some cash in this entity, and then start, talking, future deals, etc. If you introduce me to a buyer, or you pick up the phone and you call somebody, what is that look like? And is there a is there a conversation there to be had in terms of, hey, you're bringing the other half of the deal, but I'm obviously, how hard it is to get sellers to agree to commit to giving you financials and all that. I mean, it's a lot of work, right? So I'm just curious as to how that works with you all if you make that intro on the buy side.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're saying specifically in the instance where you have a deal, or are you saying just in general?
I have a deal.
Process?
I have a deal. I have a deal. I have a deal. I say, Henry, I have a live deal.
Yeah, so we would just do the deal 50-50, right? Like that's what happens. I represent the buy side, you represent the seller side, you make what you make, and I make what I make.
Who pays who, though, right? In that situation, right?
Whatever the total fee is, we just split it 50-50. I don't pick your pocket, you don't pick mine. If we know that hypothetically, we're just like, hey, well, it's easier if I just take a 6% commission on 500K, right? We make $300,000 through my brokerage. Whatever the net is, I cut you a check for the difference, right? Like the 50% of it. Okay. Or if we know that we should just wholesale it, I'll lock it up as an example or whatever. We'll figure it out together and we just split the fee 50-50.
Let's take that there for a second. Let's say it's a $5 million deal. I'm under contract for $5 million. I know that it could go for $6 million, right? So it's $1 million spread.
Right.
But let's say, right, and then I'm responsible for closing costs as well, right, and all that stuff. So let's say net it's $800K. That's the money that's on the table. You would come in potentially and say, hey, I have a buyer, but I want to basically be a broker in this deal, and I'm going to create commission. Yep. So is that 6%? Are you co-broking with anybody else, or is that just
it would be my cost anyways.
Okay.
If I co-broke with anybody else, it'd be my cost.
Okay. So in the closing costs, the cost of the broker effectively would be your commission, if you will, or would you?
You had a deal, you have $1 million spread, and I have some guy who's willing to pay you $6 million.
Yeah.
We're going to get to an agreement where hypothetically we're each going to make $500,000, and we'll make each other whole no matter which way we do it. Right.
Yes.
Obviously, if hypothetically your net check's 800, right? We'll make 400 each. I don't pick pockets, whatever. We each make 400. Sure. I'm not complaining. But yes, in some instances, as an example, I would just say, hey, I'll put myself on the contract for, let's just say 400,000 in a commission check. Okay. And you make your 400,000 in your double close. And if it ends up being 425, keep the 25 grand, whatever.
Okay. Right? And in terms of that, will there be any assistance on your end with, looking at making sure that I'm doing everything right?
100%. Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Because I know you're a busy guy.
We're partners in the deal, man. I want to make money and it doesn't get done unless it closes.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay. Contract review. So, you guys provide PSAs, purchase and sale agreements, right?
There's a copy of here's the thing. I'm not giving you a PSA. I give you letters. Okay. Your attorney is going to create a PSA.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. And it's going to be specific.
I am not your legal counsel. I will give you a letter of intent, which has as much value as a fucking napkin.
Big print. You're not an accountant. You're not an attorney. I get it.
Exactly. Throw it up on the fucking screen, right? Like,
what's a good fee for a legal person to draft up an agreement?
$2,000 to $5,000.
$2,000 to $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
We're drafting a believer. Okay. I got somebody who'll do it for much cheaper than that, which I think is a really good deal.
Listen, if he's actually a good commercial attorney, that's just what I've paid in the past. I don't really, I like working with very sophisticated people who, if you trust them, fine. Look, if they charge you $500, good for you. As long as
$1,500. It's $1,500. So
I'm just saying most residential attorneys charge less. But doing commercial deals is a little bit more sophisticated. And as long as they've closed commercial deals, listen,
this is the same lawyer I'm telling you that did the $2 million plus spread on for the doctor.
I'm not saying they should charge you more, right? Like I'm saying if she's, if they want $1,500, then fantastic. As long as you trust them, wonderful, right? Like
trust is a tough word because this is my first soiree, and obviously building a relationship will take time. But
listen, as long as if they've done it before, you should feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Okay, I reached out to a couple of my different contacts, real estate brokers and commercial brokers. They work on resi, they work on commercial. Yeah. And I want to set up a network with them and let them know that I am a buyer in this market and that I want to work with them and see if they can bring me deals and I will buy their deals, right? So I want to build that pipeline. Now, do I need to let the broker know? I mean, because these are people that know me, right? So I should be transparent with them about what I'm doing, right or no?
You can tell them after. Tell them after contract. You're in contract already. Hey, listen,
Okay.
what my plan is that actually I think this deal actually makes sense for me to flip it to a buddy of mine. You don't need to tell them you're going to flip it to a stranger.
Okay.
Listen, you
Okay.
know what a broker cares about?
Getting commission.
Get a commission. That's it. They want a
That's
commission.
it.
Thank you very much. And I want it to be as easy as freaking possible. Okay.
Got it. So they're going to want to represent their sellers. They're going to want to represent their sellers, but also are their sellers
And
going to
you.
be? I mean, their sellers, they have a fiduciary obligation as a broker to get them the highest and best price. But ultimately, if they want to go off market, they know that commercial land is not the same as resi, right? Resi is way more
Listen,
regulated.
let me be very clear. Let me stipulate for a second. Whatever price that a seller is willing to accept is the right price. Highest and best, is subjective. Highest and best doesn't mean overpriced. It means a price in which they feel is appropriate for them. Some people are more, in a position where they are, I don't want to like to use the word desperate, but they are in a need of cash, possibly, or a need of getting this off their shoulders, and they're willing to take a lesser price. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that market value ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah, the one thing that you touched on, which is the heartstrings of it, which is looking for, the motivation should probably be more towards emotional and or immediate need, because that's what gets things kind of moving quickly. I agree with that. And ultimately, I do feel like, trying to sit there and talk about what something's going to be worth in the future with some people is not a great way to, like people, you'll know kind of generally what your property's worth, right? But there's a lot of assumptions that go into commercial real estate in terms of leasing up, stabilizing, and when something will get stabilized, and what's the actual true vacancy of a market. So you can fucking, I learned this when I was at Credit Suisse. You can underwrite until your fucking heart's content. It will never hold up in a year from now. Just doesn't work that way. People don't really know.
Might be better, might be worse. Who knows?
Doesn't, yeah. I mean, there's going to be a variance, right? But ultimately,
Sure.
it's like whatever. One thing that you mentioned in your videos is, I think communication and getting the script down. So the script, when I talk to somebody who's a commercial real estate broker or a broker that I know, my conversation with them is, hey, I've started a real estate acquisition company. We buy properties.
I would say started.
No. Okay.
I run. You don't need to say started. And this is your script for cold calling. This is your script we're talking about for cold calling.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Well,
the script is in the what's it called? It's in all the docs. So like my script is there. Literally just says.
Yeah, no, not the cold calling script. No, like talking to people who are going to bring me deals. Right. I want to use my.
Okay, got it. You don't have to say I started. Just be like, listen, I run an investment company and I'm looking to buy great deals in the marketplace. I want to help you get paid. Right. We're looking for great, good deals, great returns. If you come across anything off market only, I'd love to be a resource to help you get paid fast.
Okay. When a deal transacts and it's not on the MLS for commercial real estate, that information still, like, there's still a record, right, of the transaction in, like, will CoStar still have records? Like, or only like the tax records will show like double closings and all of that?
CoStar is connected to the tax records, but
Yeah.
this is one of those beautiful states where it's a non-disclosure state.
Texas. Yeah.
Yep. So it's a non-disclosure state, which basically means that they will not show. They do not show. It's a non-disclosure. So unless you disclose it, choose to disclose it, which you will get a phone call and or documents in order to check to say will be disclosed. So you can say no, and I would recommend saying no. And or if anyone calls you, because CoStar will hound you, right? Saying, oh, I see you closed on a property. What did you pay? And what was this? And what was that? Right? Like you don't have to tell them anything. And just say, I don't know. Thanks. Have a nice day. Click, right? And just don't give them any information and no one will ever know that it was double closed.
Okay.
In New Jersey, it's a disclosure state. So, they will see very clearly, I paid X with this LLC.
And they may not, well, they'll know because you're reusing the same LLC over and over again. Has anybody ever been sued for doing double closings? Because
I'm sure they have. I have no idea why.
Yeah, which is why I was thinking,
legally.
Sense.
All I can tell you is obviously talk to your attorney and read the contract very clearly. Like it will stipulate what things you can and cannot do. I know that if they state you cannot share XYZ information in the contract and you share XYZ information, they might have a problem with it. I know, like, again, this is not legal advice. This is just me saying, what I've experienced in the past, right? If they ask you to sign an NDA, you should have other people sign an NDA. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
do not share any valuable, XYZ information, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the documentation, it will say like, hey, sometimes it'll stipulate saying that, you have XYZ due diligence time horizons, this time horizon, you cannot assign the contract. It has to be an XYZ LLC. You can do that. I'm not saying you can't double close. You have the legal rights to say like, okay, fine, I can close on this contract, and what the I do 5 seconds after I close is none of your concern. So there's ways, obviously speak to your attorney about things like this, but like whatever comes up in the contract is what you have to abide to. And as long as you abide by contract, they're not going to sue you. They're not going to have a lot of legs to stand on if you followed everything in the contract.
Yeah, anybody can sue anybody, but I guess my only concern was like if you make $1 million or $2 million on a $4 million, $5 million property,
No one knows.
nobody knows, right? Okay.
No one knows. Listen, because all it shows is you have a HUD, which is seller side, buyer side. They just see that you paid $5 million for their building, okay, and where all of the money of the $5 million is going, and what charges you incurred, right? So you might end up paying $5,102,000 for the property because closing costs and all the bullshit. And then what'll happen is that's one HUD, and then the next HUD, right, that's going to come up is going to be something else that says 6 million, and you'll see the delta, right? So you'll see like, okay, the guy purchased it for 6,137,000 because of closing costs. You net 5,852 grand, and then your delta is the difference between your total out and your total in. That's it. Like no one actually will see the previous HUD or the next HUD.
Yeah, this is effectively arbitrage. I mean, in a lot of ways, you
can do this with businesses. You can do this with purchase orders. You can do this with anything. They just happen to label it. Like wholesaling is just assumed. Like wholesaling is a very broad term. In my eyes, the wholesaling is locking up a contract of X. Anything. I don't care if it's a Rolex watch like this one, right? You lock it up for X price, and the same day I flip it. People do that all the time. The only difference is that in our world, there's a lot more paperwork,
and the spreads are probably a little bit bigger. I mean,
I don't know. Look, unless you're flipping mega yachts, or I don't know what else you're flipping to making more money. Maybe businesses, dude. BlackRock, okay, or Blackstone locked up Sam Zell's many years ago. Sam Zell, the greatest, one of the greatest personal investors of all time, right? Real estate.
I remember this trade.
Yeah. So Blackstone locked it up for $39 billion. His entire portfolio locked it up for $39 billion. And at closing, they double closed on like $10 billion of it, right? Or $20 billion of it. They only kept the best assets.
Yeah, because wasn't Peter Cooper Stuyvesant in that deal? Didn't they have? Wasn't that a?
I'm not sure who they flipped it to, but I know
it was equity residential, right? It was an equity residential or
something like that. I'm not sure.
That was insane. Yeah,
but I'm just saying. So look, anybody does it at all scales. You know how many times someone probably locked up a business for $50 million and they found a buyer for 70 and they just said, "F it, I'll flip the deal."
Yeah,
I'm sure it's happened a million times.
I met him once actually. I met him. He was at a fund of funds group meeting at this bank I used to work at, and it was like in the morning. I was hungover. He was coming out of the bathroom when I was going in. I'd seen him a couple times too. He's always the guy that he never wore a suit, always wore jeans, Because I went to Shaq. I don't know if I told you that. I went to
you're saying Sam Zell?
Yeah. I met him like a couple of times.
Short guy.
It
makes me feel good about myself.
He's a funny dude, man. He's a funny dude. He's a funny dude to be in a meeting with.
God bless him. God bless him.
Yeah, man. God rest his soul.